Hello. So we are together at the well. However, we're bringing something different today. I don't even know
Hey.
where to look. Okay, let me look at my camera. We are talking about friendship at the well. And to do so, I invited my BFF, Kate Grego.
What's up, everybody?
Okay, so the whole point of this video is really to highlight Christian friendship. And I thought it was so important because I just did a series called the Journey series, where I was talking about how you're going to need two specific people to survive on the path of Christianity. Number one, you need a friend. And number two, you need a mentor.
Yes.
And Katie and I, well, I call her Katie, we go back literally over 20 years, right? I mean, this is
Yep.
2020.
Super old now.
Yeah, so we've been friends for a really long time, and you'll get to know a little bit about us. But the point is that not only have I known her for a long time, but she has been such an important part of my survival. I mean, she has helped me, and we've just have so many great memories. And not just that, but in this video, I want to talk about lessons we've learned from one another and also obstacles we've had to overcome. So you'll see all of that. But to get us started, I just want you to just introduce yourself, Katie. Let them know, who is Kate Grego.
I am a child of God, most important.
Yes.
Um, I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I have a little baby girl named Charlie. Um, I like long walks on the beach now. I'm a big time shopper.
Oh, well, that's part of our story. Okay,
Yeah,
you'll see how we met after this.
big time shopper. I love like anything like DIY. I always want to say DIY, but I right now I'm just work part time for Allstate, and I mom full time. So obviously I'm serving the Lord on the daily.
Yes.
So that's about all I can say about myself.
Okay. Well, I wanted to start off by kind of describing Katie to you guys since you're getting to know her. And I
Oh
didn't
boy.
want to pre-plan like what words I was going to use. So I kind of thought about it, but I didn't really think about it completely. So three
It's fair.
words I would use to describe Katie. Number one, funny. Like, she's just funny. I mean, she would make the most plain moment fun. And she cracks me up. And honestly, I don't know that I'm a person who laughs all the time. Like, I smile a lot. She's just funny. I mean, she comes up with stuff. Number two, godly. Like, truly, like, this girl had me doing a devotional on our vacation. Like, it was like, seriously, like, okay, so let's do our prayer time. I'm like, girl, we're in Myrtle Beach.
Right.
But definitely godly, walks with God. I mean, we'll get into more of that because it's all has to do with what I've learned from her. And the third one was kind of like the wild card. Like, what
Oh,
can
tell
I
me.
say? Because you know what? I'm going to say creative. Because,
Okay.
and this kind of goes to your DIY. Like, I didn't even realize how much you enjoy DIY until now I'm thinking about
I
it. Like, that's true. Like, this girl be coming up with some projects. And I'm like, when did you have time to do that? So she's very creative. She
3 a.m. baby.
She sends me little cards in the mail, super thoughtful gifts. I just want to highlight one of those gifts right now. I
Hey,
mean, who can be in their 30s and still be rocking friendship
come on.
bracelets?
Come on, guys. Goals.
So I think that's good. Did you want to describe me in 3 words?
I do. You know what? I was like really, really thinking about this. These might like surprise you.
Okay.
You know what? You're surprised me. So,
Okay.
the first one I would definitely say is supportive. I feel like wherever you're at in life, you're that friend that's trying to find a way to make this work. Like your key phrase is always okay, okay.
Okay.
You want to assess the situation.
You
So
know
I
what?
feel like that's like one thing when I think about you, like as a friend, very supportive. Even if it's like something outlandish, I feel like you try to vibe somewhere, get in the mix somewhere. Definitely this one should be number one.
Okay.
Practical. You will
Hey,
not meet a more practical person.
practical Bible teachings. That's like,
Hey,
that's my banner of my channel.
yeah,
Practical Bible teachings.
that's you. Like you're always looking for the practicality in everything. And I feel like it's refreshing because we like tend to like, not even as human, but like as women, we tend to complicate things. So I feel like it's so nice to have the friend that just simplifies it. Let's be practical about the situation. So I feel like that's like one thing that's huge about you. It's funny hearing about yourself, isn't it?
I'm feeling it. Keep going.
Another one is, I mean, I could be here all day, but I would say you're very generous, and not just with, I think when people say, hey, you're generous, you automatically think like outlandish gifts or, cash money, which you are with cash money too. But I think that's like with your time. I feel like that's like one big thing, like you're generous with your time, with giving yourself. And then obviously, gifts, I feel like you do try to one up,
Hey, we still celebrate each other's birthdays. We're still rocking
Yes.
Christmases. And you know what I love? That we had a conversation like, hey, if you can't, you can't. If you don't, you don't. But it's
Right.
just something that I feel like our friendship has gotten to a point of like a good understanding. Like one of our phrases was, I think you started it, was like, just throwing it out there.
Right.
When you say like, just throwing it out there,
Throwing it out there.
it gives the other person like freedom to maybe say, you know what? I don't know if I want to hang out today. Hey, you want to hang out?
Right.
Just throw it out there.
Right. That's
Another
cool.
one of our phrases, I feel like in our friendship, is like just checking in.
Just checking in. Yeah, you got to do the check-in.
I know it could be like maybe after a week or 2 weeks, but it's like just checking in.
Right. How's life going?
And my favorite phrase, I hate where you're at. I mentioned that in one of my videos, but I'm telling you, it's so refreshing to have somebody just acknowledge where you're at. Like, I hate
where you're at.
And I feel like we take turns.
Yes, we do. I don't think we'd have survived if we hadn't.
Right. Like sometimes I hate where you're at, you hate where I'm at. Like we're just able
Yes.
to like comfort each other in
Yes.
where we're at.
Right.
Which
Definitely.
we're at the well. No, I'm just kidding. Like I don't
Hey.
clearly
I love that little well.
Thank you.
You know what's funny? I've seen it in the other videos, and for some reason, when I saw it, it always like reminded me of like a gauntlet.
Oh, what? I was like, wait a minute. No. No, actually, it's so funny because my mom got that for me.
Okay.
And it matches so perfectly with the desk. I mean, you can have a channel together at the well and there's no well. Like it just confuses people.
I love it.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about first how we met, because I think that's all part of like even praying for a friend.
Sure.
So why don't you just start this off?
You know what? I'm glad that you said that, because I was going to interject with something. So not going to make this long, but part of like the biggest part about this is my testimony and how I came to know Christ, which really ties it back. But I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in, kind of a crazy house. And I worked at a local newspaper, and I had this lady who's very dear to me named Lydia. Didn't really, she was just a coworker at the time, but she would always ask me anytime I was talking to her, she would say, do you know Jesus? Are you saved? And never even heard of the word saved, born again, accepted Jesus as your savior, like none of these things. And so I was like, oh boy, here we go, and I remember like I started telling her like I was saved, like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I know Jesus. Did not know Jesus, let me tell you. I was like so far from knowing Jesus, it wasn't even funny. Yeah. And so I did get saved. I asked Jesus to save me, accepted him as my savior, and God like drastically changed my life. And going to church was like such a big deal. I grew up for 19 years I didn't go to church. I mean, we went maybe, I don't know, like 4 times to like Catholic church, didn't really understand anything. But so now like church was such a big part of my life. So now I don't want to skip the whole high school thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Lisette and I met in high school. I don't know if you want to comment on anything about that. And then we can.
I think what's special is like, I know like pre-saved Katie and post-saved Katie.
Right.
So to me, that's special. And it's funny because he did drastically change your life. Absolutely. But what's funny is that I feel like even the process of sanctification, like God doesn't change who you are, he uses who you are. Like
Wow, that's good.
you were bold back then and you're bold now. Like, let me tell
Wow.
you something about my friend Katie. We will be in the mall, right? We're just shopping. Like, we're literally paying for something. Next thing you know, this girl takes a little card out of her purse and just slides it on. Like, this girl evangelizes wherever we are. And
Oh goodness.
I'm like, I kind of forget because honestly, it's not something I do. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's true. Like I should be sharing the gospel wherever we go. So I feel like, like with Paul, he was bold for Christ. He was like out there persecuting Christians, but then God used that same bold character to like work for his kingdom. So I feel like that's how I see you. Like somebody
Wow.
who, like you were funny back then. You were creative back then. Like I'm telling you,
I like it.
I think because I don't see myself as so fun, maybe because like you said, I'm so practical that like
Mm-hmm.
I need that in my life. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's what like you bring, obviously
Okay.
beyond all the Christian advice and all that good stuff.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, we met in high school and you are your own person. Okay, so real quick, this girl was in gym class. Like we
Oh.
had gym class together. And she would just be like laying on the mat, right? And I would go to her like, hey, are you gonna participate? She'd be like, nah, not today. And I'm like, how do you come to gym class and you just determine that you're gonna just lay on the mat? And you know what? It's still like that. Cause I'm like, hey Katie, you wanna like hang out? Nah, not today.
Wait, hold on. I need to say something. I had 4 gym classes my senior year.
Well, thank God, because
Sometimes I wanted to lay on the mat.
because you wanted to do what you wanted to do. But
That's true.
but you have become quite the submissive one, I will say. You definitely take heed to God's voice. And I know, like, let's say we don't agree on something. I'm like, you know what? God is going to convict her. And he always does because you're somebody who really pays attention to listening to God's voice.
Praise
So I think
God.
if we fast forward past high school, just so you know what was going on with me back in high school, I knew the Lord, but I had strayed away from his ways. So I grew up in a Christian home. I served God from my young ages, but around 15, I was just like, I don't really want to do this. I stopped praying, stopped reading the Bible. So my body was in church, but not my heart and not my mind.
Wow.
So
Right.
Katie also met me, not even as a Christian necessarily. I was just, most people kind of just knew me like as an average girl. Like I wasn't like out there wild, but I wasn't like super shy. I was just like super, super basic.
Right.
And so then how did we reconnect after high school?
So after high school,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we were pretty tight in high school. And then obviously, you graduate and you kind of go your separate ways.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that much longer. It was only a year after high school, year and a half.
Okay.
So where was I? At the mall.
Yes.
Wait, okay. So I remember I was in New York and Company. Did you work there?
Well, yeah, the first time I was working there and you came in, and it's funny because I was like, I saw your outfit and I'm like, interesting. Like it just, you were wearing like a long skirt and I was like, oh, like I was like, oh, I don't know who she is anymore. And then
Right.
you were returning something as
Right.
you tend to do. And then we really didn't like exchange numbers. It kind of just left it at that. I was working and you were just returning.
Right.
But then do you realize that we met again in New York and Company?
Yep, I
In
do.
the same store.
I do.
Not too long after. And that's when we actually had a moment to stop and talk. And in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't run into a lot of people, right? And here I find myself running into you again. And I'm also wondering like what you've been up to. So that's when we talked and you told like, you're always, I got saved. I'm like, this girl, a diehard evangelist.
Shut up.
You are like, that is you, but that's great. And then we exchanged numbers. I think I was about 23 or 24 because I was living on my own at the time.
Okay, yeah. So you know what it is? I got saved 1 year after high school. So I guess you're right. It was about 24. I remember distinctly you saying like, hey, what have you been up to? And I remember saying like, just, your common things, but adding in like, oh, going to church. And you were like, me too.
Yeah.
And that was just like, boom. Like for us, it was like, wow, like you're going to church too. And I know that you went to church when we were in high school, but I didn't know that. I remember not even knowing that, like, wow, like, I honestly would be like, I didn't know you were a Christian. Not that you were like so wicked. I just didn't know that part of
Right.
your life.
Because I mean, it's hard to say I was, you know, when you're living a backslidden life, like, wasn't I? I mean, I definitely wasn't living for God. I definitely wasn't walking in his ways,
Right.
but I had known him. So bringing this back to like today, so we've been tight ever since then. So you figure that's a good 13 years ago.
Right.
That was 24, now I'm 37. And it was like an instant reconnection. Like it wasn't hard. I think that's the one thing about our
Yeah.
friendship. Like it just flowed. And I had been praying for a godly friend because at this point in my life, I had like my sisters and different acquaintances, but I can't say I had like a best friend.
Right. You know what? It's funny. I'm glad that you brought that up because you ever going to talk to somebody or you talk in front of maybe a crowd or something, you have something going on and you're like, man, I forgot to say that.
Yeah.
This is one of those things. So, once I got saved, I started going to church and, you meet people, but I didn't really feel like I had like a bestie, like somebody I could really be my Christian self, like be myself all around in every area. And I remember like somebody at my church was like, you know what, why don't you start praying for God to bring you a friend?
Yes.
And I was like, actually, no, I think it was Lydia, the lady that led me to the Lord. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am such a geek. I have to pray. Like I'm this pathetic. I have to pray for a friend. Like, and I was like, that's it. Like, I feel like I hit an all-time low. Like I'm young and I'm praying for a friend.
Oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Well, I didn't know because you were praying for me.
But I feel like I was like, you know what do I have to lose? So I did start praying for God to bring me not just any friend, but like a best friend, And then bam, I'm telling you, it wasn't long after God brought me Lisette. And what a friendship. Like I can't, we could say different words about each other. Hey, let's talk about each other in 3 words or what. But it's like, I really can't explain to you the depth of our friendship.
Right.
Like, and I even think like this whole video, like what was the point of this video? Like to encourage other people, like, man, the importance of a friendship.
Right. Because so we'll talk about different lessons and things, but it is. And I think sometimes we talk about so much as like young people or singles, like praying for your husband. And it's like, why are we just bypassing this whole season of life of singleness?
Right.
God has equipped us, like, let's say we weren't in high school anymore, but we're not like married with children. And actually we ended up staying single for a while.
Yeah, we really needed each other.
Longer than we had planned.
Right.
We literally got married the same year.
Yes.
Like me in May and you in July.
Yep.
So you figure from 23, I was 30.
That's funny.
7 years where God knew I was going to need a friend. Right. I mean, we literally spent Valentine's Day together. And it's not embarrassing. It's like we truly enjoyed, and I always wanted that. Like ever since I was young.
Me too.
And I've had good friendships, and I just want to shout out like some of my other friends because I've had some really amazing friendships, and I'm friends with a lot of people today that I've had for 10 years or more. And Katie has lots of friends. I mean, you know what it is to be a friend. What's the quote you always say about be a friend?
Just the Bible verse to have a friend, be friendly if you want a friend. I mean, I can't think of what verse that is,
but I know it's like basically be a friend to have a friend. And so anybody who feels like they don't have any friends, well, then I would urge you to like reconsider like some of your own habits and behaviors, because it's like you have to be a friend to get a friend. Right. But you always say iron sharpens iron.
Hey.
That you always.
No, I said it's the truth.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about how we met. And so a few lessons I've learned from you, besides the value of obviously having a friendship. Some things besides some of the quotes I mentioned earlier, one thing that you always say is like, not always say, but I feel like I repeat it to myself a lot. There's only 2 people who show up to a pity party.
Okay.
You remember saying that?
Yep.
You and Satan. It's like every time I find myself feeling sorry for myself. You also say like sin takes you farther than you want it to go and keeps you longer than you want it to stay.
Yep.
So I feel like lessons also is like Katie is probably the only person in my life who has ever said, "How's your walk with God?" Like I don't think I've ever heard anybody else ask me that question.
Wow.
I mean, but you know what? I just do also want to mention, like, Katie goes to a fundamental Baptist church. I go to a Pentecostal church. And just to even show you that you don't have to go literally to the same church
Yes.
or be a part of the same denomination. Like, we're one body of Christ.
Right.
And when it comes to the important things, like we all agree on those. And there's always things that even within a denomination, like people may have differences. But
Right.
I would say that probably there's certain things I learned from you that are maybe more common in the church that you go to.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we went to that singles event, and you were like, "Well, just to let you know, everybody's going to be wearing a skirt," and I was like, "Girl,"
I was like, how do I break this to her?
I was like, didn't I tell you I'm Pentecostal?"
That's
We
so
always wear skirts, especially to church. I don't personally wear skirts every day, but a lot of people I know do. And that's what I'm trying to say. There's even differences within the same churches. So
right.
don't like let that hinder you in finding a good godly friend.
Right. Um, one of the biggest things that I can't ever like get away from, which is a good thing that I've learned from you, is that it's just temporary. No matter what it is, I always hear you. This is just temporary.
I feel like we say a lot, like a year from now, everything will be a year from now. Because it's
Yes.
true. Like literally, we're living right now, it's April of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I mean, we're literally in quarantine right now. So a
Right.
year from now, our lives are going to be totally different. I mean,
Who
I
knows?
could get pregnant and have a baby from here.
Right.
You could too. Like so many things can change. You can change your job. So I just always look forward, and somehow I have that year mark. Like,
Yes.
a year usually is what it takes. Oh, breakups. Oh gosh, I don't even think I want to talk about that. I don't think
Right.
I do.
No.
But especially in times of like breakup, like I know for sure I ain't gonna be worried about this a year from now.
Right. No, I think that's key, is just one of the biggest things about you is putting it into perspective. Hey, this isn't going to last forever.
Right.
No matter what it is, maybe you're stuck in a bad job, you're stuck in a bad relationship, you're just stuck in a bad position. It's not forever.
Right.
Um, Another thing that I feel like I have really learned from you, which kind of ties almost into challenges,
Mm-hmm.
because like within our friendship, because I feel like from those challenges, I have learned this,
Okay.
um, just to try to, and not, I've learned it within our relationship, but it has spread out to, like your relationship with your parents or anybody else, is just everybody is loved differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, a good friend is really going to try to understand how they can love you better. Hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not doing a good job. People change. We change all the time. I'm not the same person I was last year, um, let alone, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think that you really have taught me, hey, listen, you got to stop and really figure out how to make sure you're loving that other person the way you should. Um, like I think, you talk about like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but like the 5 love languages,
Oh yeah.
we all have them.
Yeah.
You should look it up. I think it's pretty cool if you've never done it. It's interesting to realize like what your love language is. Like I would say maybe mine in previous time was quality time, but now I feel like I'm like a homebody where I know Lisette is big time. It's quality time. Um, so yeah.
Well, and I think too that goes back to like I don't know that we mentioned it, but you're gonna have to put work into your friendship.
Oh yeah.
So Kate's talking about getting to know your friend, and usually this is all about love, and that's what I said. We pray for our husband. We want to learn how to love our boyfriends or our husband, but it's like, what about our friends? And so you're gonna have to put effort into that friendship and learn like what it is that maybe bothers them. And
Right.
I mean, there could come a point where a friendship could be so burdensome, or it's a friend for a season. But
Right.
I know that you're not just my friend for a season. Like, you're my lifetime friend.
Right.
So if you do have a friend that you say, this is going to be a friendship that I would like to cherish for a lifetime, then definitely you're going to have to pay attention to some of those changes, because it doesn't mean we change in the same ways at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't real clear on that, but you just summed it up.
So just to kind of talk about some obstacles, for anybody, again, who plans to have a friend to last through years and decades, you're going to go through different stages. And I think one recent challenge would probably be, actually, it's not even that recent, because we've almost been married now for 7 years. I mean,
Right.
I can't even believe this, 7 years. But like how a friendship will change when people get married. And
Yes.
just like, it's funny because we were like so like diehard, like my best friend, my best friend. And then it was like, now your husband was your best friend. I'm like, what do you mean?
That's great.
Like,
Sorry.
and then now it's like, your daughter's your best friend. I'm like, hold up. I just got too much competition going on here. I cannot compete. But it's really understanding that the time you spend together changes.
Yes.
And now obviously I can understand even more. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody. It's like, oh, hold on, the baby. Oh, hold on, he's crying, because my son's only 9 months right now, so he's super needy. And so it's just really understanding that like the time that you can offer will change. And
Right.
hangouts, like our best hangout is like, let's meet at the mall food court.
That's it.
And I think we can hit like what, 3 or 4 stores. It's like, oh, I gotta change his pamper. Like, oh,
Right.
I gotta go. Maybe cook dinner.
Right.
I don't know. That's probably you more than it's me.
My kid's flipping out. I gotta go. It's nap time.
Yeah. So it's just, but I think if you really build into the friendship, especially when you're single, then it's easier to maintain that friendship when you get married. Because I don't know that I could, in this point in my life, create, well, not that you create friendship, but kind of like
Right.
find a new friend that I would be as close to you. I just
Right.
don't have the time to invest. And
Right.
that might sound mean, right? Like, I don't have time for new friends. That's not what I'm
No.
saying. Like, I can always meet new people and be a blessing to new people. But I think that if you really, especially anybody who's watching this and you're younger, especially if you're not married or if you don't have kids, like, you actually do have time to invest
Right.
in a friend.
I totally agree.
Okay. So, any other obstacles you think that you would like to talk about? Because this is probably where people might say, well, I used to have a friend, not anymore.
One of the things I do think, or I hear a lot from different people, is that hopefully that doesn't fall again, is that people get into an argument. You talk to somebody, it's like, oh, I haven't seen you hanging out with, such and such. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we got into a big argument.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I can't tell you how many times like we've gotten into a big argument. Like, you're people who come from different backgrounds, different ways of communication. Like, you're gonna have disagreements. That's just in any relationship. So I feel like a good friendship, you got to weather the storm. And by all means, I want to be clear on this. Some people are toxic. I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean stay in a toxic friendship at all. But just, you know what? Sometimes you got to give one another grace. It's like, maybe I'm going through a tough time in life and maybe I'm not as nice as I should be.
Right.
You
Maybe
know?
I'm not walking with God like I should be. And therefore, my flesh is taking over. And so I'm manifesting certain qualities that's not why you became friends with me. Because, and I think another thing I've learned from you, you taught me that when your flesh is out of control, it manifests in different ways. Like one time you were like you could be overeating, overspending. Like I think sometimes we associate the flesh with like sexual sin or like
Right.
lying or anger, but it's like, there's a lot of things that you could, habits that are not good. And
Right.
so I do worry a lot of times about the younger generation and how they're growing and how maybe that's why they don't have quality friendships, because they're so like in social media that it's like, are they really like actually spending time, hashtag
Right.
quality time over here.
Right.
It just feels like, there's got to be that element of like, I mean, in my opinion, just spending time getting really to know this person and going through experiences. And
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with this. This is more so, I don't know that this isn't necessarily, oh, you know what? This could be a challenge in some of your friendships. I think not being so judgmental. Like, I feel like we kind of always had that no judgment zone.
Mhm.
you know, not trying to be like Planet Fitness, but so that's their motto. No. If you wanted to say something or you expressed the thought that maybe, like, I could tell Lisette something that I would never say to anybody else. And I know that
Okay,
she's,
okay.
you know, like, if I'm like, man, I just really wanted to push her down a flight of stairs, like, wow, you know,
You
I
walking
could
with
tell
the
that to
Lord?
her. I could tell it to her. And I know she's not, I know that she knows who I am. And maybe I say something crazy in that moment. Like, I know that she's not holding it against me. I feel like everybody needs a friend who they can be 100% themselves and not have the judgment if they say something, you know, that wasn't exactly perfect, or if they act a fool, you know, sometimes we act a fool.
Yeah, and important, and it's not that we didn't call each other to accountability, right? So
Right.
let's say, and that's a tough balance, right? For me to understand what you're feeling in your
Mhm.
humanity, but not necessarily just like agreeing with anything. You know, like let's say I'm back when, you know, before I got married, let's say I was dating a guy
Mhm.
and he's not even saved. Like, you're gonna say to me, like, listen, like, what's your
Right.
plan with this guy? You know, and that's the thing, that some of those hard conversations might lead to arguments, which may make the person
Right.
up. So it's really, I think it's a really hard balance of being able to be myself with this person and saying what's my true feelings, but also this person having the responsibility of like bringing me back to like God's word. But definitely, I agree with you. I read one thing once, and it was like, we have to be friends forever because you know too much.
Yes, absolutely.
And I
That's
agree with that. Like, a real friend, this is how I know I have a real friend, where I can truly be myself. And like, I just can't imagine a friendship where you're pretending to be somebody else,
yeah.
or like, I have no idea what that would look like. And
Mhm.
to me, what I really value in friendship, and I have like this little test. I don't, okay, correction. It's not like I do this test on purpose, but depending, I'm gonna tell you, I don't even know if you know this, but depending on the outcome of this brief interaction, I can tell if I can be friends with this person or not, right? So
Oh,
let's say
yes.
I go, oh my gosh, Katie, I love your glasses.
Mhm.
If the person's like, thank you, I'm like,
Mhm. No,
but you're like, oh yeah, I got these online. They were only like $45. Like, to
that's
me,
so funny.
I know it's like the simplest thing, but like I know I can be friends with somebody when I feel like they open up and give me like something I could work with. Like, you ever try to
Right.
talk to somebody and it's like a one-sided conversation,
Yes. Oh
like
my God. I'm not, we're not, listen, I'm not doing this. I can't do both sides.
I know it's almost like you're trying to talk to somebody and it's like, is your screen frozen? Like, can you hear me?
Right.
Hello?
Yes. Can't do it.
So I
Um,
appreciate that like it again, and it a good friend, it will feel natural. I said you have to put work into it, which I think work comes in through the years, right? But as you're
yes.
building the friendship, I think it should feel natural. Like, I can be myself and we don't have to do anything. We
Mhm.
can just hang out. What are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say more of not so much a challenge, but more of like an encouragement. I guess this would be
Yeah.
considered encouragement. Like, find a friend that you know is gonna pray for you. I feel
Mm.
like a lot of
Ooh,
times
the
we tell
journal.
people,
I almost left out the journal. Hold up, go ahead.
girl, well, I feel like a
Yes.
lot of times, I mean, how often do we tell somebody like praying for you? Are you really praying for me? Like, you know, we tell people, I hope you are, but I feel like I know if I reach out to Lisette and say, yo, like, I need you to pray for me, I know that she's gonna pray for me, you know?
That is so important.
It-
So I want to tell you guys that Katie has a magic journal. Let me tell you something. I believe in the power of her journal more than I believe in the power of my journal. And you're like, what are you talking about journal? Like a prayer journal. So how long
Funny.
have you been journaling?
Probably like 18, 19 years.
Wow. So before you got saved?
No, no, I got saved 19 years ago.
Oh, wow. So almost the whole time. And you have
So
all your journals?
I do, and I
Oh, wow.
guard them with my life.
Yeah. And no, I've never read the journals, looked inside the journals, but I know I appear several times.
Oh, yes.
And that's the best thing because that's you praying for me. I mean, there's been times I'm like, can you please put this in your journal? Like, girl, and there's lots of petitions that I've asked her to pray about that I can say to this day, we've seen the fulfillment of those things. Something so simple like when my husband needed a job, when he moved down here when we got married, the process I went through to get pregnant, you know, like I needed support. And I know that, and that's why you need a godly friend. Because if the friend isn't connected with God, I mean, how are they going to be doing this? Praying for you.
Right. Right.
So I had to shout
Yeah,
out.
no.
The journal has been probably the third person in this friendship.
That's funny. No, I love it when like I've prayed something for Lisette and then I can show her in the journal. Like, if we look at exhibit A, okay, 10 days ago, you know, it's just awesome to see God work in your friend's life and within your friendship. But definitely you should be able to ask your friend to pray for you, you know, and know that they're going to, and know that they're godly enough that they're going to get in touch with God for you, you know?
Good. All right. So, I mean, I feel like I covered most of what I wanted people to get to know you, talk about some lessons we've learned, some obstacles. So, probably just to end, just any advice you would give to anybody out there, especially like maybe I'm picturing people who are in the place where we were. Like, obviously, we can say pray, right? Pray for godly friends.
Sure.
But anything else?
I would say maybe you have somebody that you're thinking about right now that you're like, you know what? They could be a potential best friend. I would say
That's good.
really give some time and some effort and do little things, you know, mail a card. I'm notorious. I love mailing cards.
And I love receiving mail. Ever
I
since
do.
I was a little kid, I used to send away in like the cereal boxes just to get the stuff in the mail. I don't know why I don't have Amazon Prime. I mean,
Girl,
probably because I would go crazy ordering stuff. That's why.
this is true. And you can use mine. Just saying.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. A friend who lets me use their Prime? What?
Come on now. I would say, you know, find ways that you can connect with them. Even during this whole crazy COVID thing, you can send a card, you can send a text, you can, you know, you can obviously not just pray for a friend, but you can pray for that friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more you pray for somebody, you do tend to feel connected to them. So I would say just reach out, you know, put yourself out on the line. Sometimes we feel stupid. And we're like, just like I felt dumb praying for a friend,
Yeah.
you know, you might feel dumb, like going the extra mile for somebody that you're like, I don't know if this person, I don't necessarily know that I consider them a best friend or even a tight friend. Maybe there's somebody that you want to be friends with. Just put yourself out there. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. I mean, that was such good advice because I didn't even consider that. Like the person that maybe you're friends with now and you want to take the friendship to another level. But right. And I know to somebody it's like that sounds weird. But
Right.
you're missing out on having someone walk alongside you in this journey. And that's what this whole thing is about, that we had each other. And I would say, you know, we survived our single years.
Oh,
And let me tell you, I briefly mentioned it took us a while to get married, but I mean, we were not like these super happy single ladies. I mean, I mean, you know, we were like,
we
God,
struggled at times.
what was it?
We struggled at times.
Right. But it was like, but looking back, realizing that the struggle was so much better because of you. And like, I appreciate all the vacations we got to take together.
Oh,
This
the
was like,
Valentine's Day.
yeah,
She's the best Valentine. No, she's not the best. My husband, but I'm just saying,
I know what you
best
mean.
friend Valentine.
But I
Yes.
also feel like too, not for nothing, we went on some great vacations. And
Yes.
we weren't doing anything crazy. This was in our Christian life.
Yes.
We weren't drinking, we weren't partying, but we just had so much fun. Like I said, because you're fun. So it was just easy to have.
And you're fun. So.
You're more fun, you know.
One of the things too, like I was thinking about, and not everybody has this opportunity, but it was awesome that I got to live with my best friend,
right?
You know, and have like late night. I just thought of something funny. Late night ice cream sesh, you know.
Let me tell you something. I would come home so excited to see what you would cook. Like, that's what I'm saying. This girl would make the most simple meal be exciting. I remember one time it was like turkey burgers, right? The most simple thing. And then
Oh,
you made like a side of like tomato and cucumber with some sauce. And then you put like some strawberries in some saucepan. I'm like, what is happening here?
she's
And
always appreciated even the littlest things.
well, because I feel like, well, I mean, I have, like I said, friends and family, but nobody was making me homemade strawberry sauce. But I always used to say to you, like, you're going to be the best mom. Remember that?
I do.
Because I saw all these qualities. Like, this girl's going to be the most amazing mom. Like, she's going to be that mom who always like cuts things up really cute and gets these cute little containers and sends little notes in their like lunch bag. And so here we are. We're moms. We're in the old mom club and we're happy.
Oh my.
Listen, because you know what? As much as you might want to fast forward through a season of life, enjoy where you are because you'll get out of
Yeah.
that season eventually. For those ladies who are like, I just want to get married, okay, you'll get married eventually. And you'll be missing the times you could have shared with your friend, just hanging out on the couch, having long conversations. And I'm super thankful for that season of life. I mean, it was a long time.
Same.
All right, girl. So I think this ends our interview, Friendship at the Well. Thank you for joining me.
It was a pleasure.
All right. So guys, just if you want people to find you, are we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Why not?
So
I'm fine.
she's big on Instagram, and
I only have one bestie though. Just saying. So.
Right. Besides, I'm already competing with other people. So, what's your Instagram again?
Kate Grega.
Oh, that's it? No numbers? I thought I had a number.
You know what? I think there's a 7. Sorry.
Kate Grego 7. Okay. And her stories are some of the best Instagram stories I've ever seen. I just want to throw that out there. And you guys know where to find me. So God bless you, and so glad you can join us. So get on praying for a friend and for your friends.
Bye.